of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and another day in paradise here. Thank you. And has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Any changes, corrections, additions? Hearing none, we have a move. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
No move. Okay, EP1, resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Department of Workforce Development to accept revenue for renewable energy training initiative. This is another initiative that Rachel has reached out to and has gotten us funds. I believe to the tune of $124,685 that will concentrate on heating, air, for training. And as we all know, we need those kind of things up here in Oswego County. Motion to discuss?
Move it.
Second? Any comments? Any concerns? No? Hearing none? Make a motion to approve?
You did.
We did to, okay, I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Okay. EP2, resolution declaring the intent of Oswego County Legislature to act as lead agency for the proposed action involving the Southern Oswego County Regional Intercept Project and determining the proposed action as a Type 1 action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Motion to discuss?
Move it for discussion.
Second?
Thank you.
Second? Call. Okay. Okay, this to me is one of the most exciting things that we've done in a long time, especially for infrastructure and the development of our county. This is, I'm not even sure the original person that came up with the idea to utilize our snowmobile trail that goes all the way from Constantia to Fulton, and that it will open up a wastewater for 5 different municipalities. And because it's that many, we have a very good chance of this thing passing and getting grants. So what we're doing is, obviously, we would be the lead agent instead of another municipality. We're the ones that will take responsibility to make sure that all the secrets are out, the Title I is taken care of. There'll be a lot of work going into this, but I think it's very exciting. I think this is a great opportunity for us. Whether Micron comes through or not, this, Micron has opened our eyes to our lack of wastewater and water in Oswego County. And this is a huge step in getting some more townships that ability. Questions?
What about Oswego County? This is all concentrated in southern Oswego County.
It's connecting an existing to an existing, more or less. So it's going through 5 different towns at this point. This is just one of the projects, I guess I don't even know. I'm sure we'll have more projects coming up to get more northern, but this is, let's see. You may have to start somewhere. It goes from Constantia, West Monroe, Hastings, Screwville, Volney, Villages, Central Square, Village of Phoenix, all of those municipalities to the city of Fulton, because the Fulton plant, it's being refurbished now, but if you remember, Fulton used to have a lot more businesses. Seal Right, and you had Millers and all of that. So their capacity is there, and it's not being utilized. Whereas this will be able to take all of this, and DEC is a Twitter, because we're taking all of the stuff from Constantia, not going into the lake. So we'll stop the green blooms and stuff.
Are they looking at Minetto's treatment plant?
That would be another one that we would be able to look at. I guess this is one project. Minetto was another one that's got a lot of capacity and the ability to do it.
And without Minetto, you wouldn't even have the nursing homes, any of the doctor's offices, you wouldn't have any of it. Senior housing, none of it.
You're absolutely right. We've discussed that one. I've heard you talk about it.
I just feel Oswego on this end is crucial. You're sitting on the river, and you're sitting on 2% of the Earth's fresh water that needs to be protected.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is just one step in multiple steps of what needs to be done for Oswego County to have that, to protect our waterways. We've got more water than anybody else in New York State, so we need to protect it. Any other questions? Oh, Frank.
My question just, when this was brought up at governments and courts yesterday, I asked, how can that be Southern Oswego County? Because They're talking about coming from Cleveland and down through, and this, what it is, they're gonna run the old rail line through there. And somebody said because it's on a certain side, they're gonna call it Southern Oswego County. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why it's labeled that it's Southern Oswego County.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very
Doesn't
good.
mean there
I said I'd be supporting it on the, on the floor. And the mayor, there was an interview in today's paper, the mayor said that he hadn't been approached by this yet. He hadn't seen it.
The mayor,
Mayor Fulton has not seen the paperwork that we passed yesterday.
But the resolution yesterday was to approve a memoranda of understanding with interested municipalities in the city of Fulton in support of furtherance of this project.
I'm just saying that he in the paper today, he said that he had not seen it. So, and I was gonna bring it up at tonight's common council meeting, how great it is for the city of Fulton if this all goes through and everything, everybody gets everything right. I mean, it's all great, I mean, wherever you're gonna put sewer, because you need the water lines,
Yes.
you
We need it to
you
protect.
need that for development, you need that to help with it, anytime, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I looked for a fire district. If you're looking for a fire district, you need water, and if you need water, you need sewer. So it's all great when you're putting in new sewer lines, no matter who it goes to. If it goes to Oswego, goes to Minetto,
it's all good for the county.
it's all good. Thank you.
I
You
just want,
said if,
sorry, no, you can go, sorry.
you said if Micron goes through, like, are we hearing a
Well,
retraction?
No, it's just, no, it's no retraction. I'm just saying, no matter what anything is, who knows in the world that we have today what will happen tomorrow. But I'm assuming, I'm hoping that it will continue. I was just making a statement that whether or not it went through, it woke up us to say that we need to get infrastructure in Oswego County. That's all I was trying to say.
Just to add on that, we've said these are things we should have been doing anyway, and this is the catalyst to make us move now.
Yeah.
We're behind, and so this is the catalyst to move now because we're years behind. The other thing I wanted to add on the not about the naming, the naming is the naming, but
Sorry.
it's a unique opportunity because the county owns that rail trail pretty much all the way from it doesn't go quite to the city of Fulton, but from the town of Albany all the way out to the village of Cleveland. It's a really unique opportunity to be able to utilize that for infrastructure because you're talking about one property owner, one right of way, instead of having to deal with hundreds or thousands of properties and the time that would take to get that through. So it's a very, I'm sure it'll still not be an easy thing to do, and I'm sure that Rich could probably say it's probably not an easy thing to do, but because the county has that rail trail, it creates a unique opportunity that wouldn't be there otherwise. If they didn't have that, then this would be a much more difficult project to do because you are going across multiple municipalities. You are going, 25 or 27 miles or whatever that is out to the distance that is, and very innovative project. And as Legislator Chesbro said, this is sort of an innovative way that Oswego County is identifying to do rural infrastructure that could be a model for other locations in New York State to look at this and say, hey, this worked there, can it work for us too? I want to add that.
It may cause some problems with the snowmobiler during the time when they're gonna put that on, because they don't use that trail.
They do use the trail, but, you're just laying pipe.
But when they're laying the pipe, they won't be laying in the wintertime.
Correct.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
it-
they just did this in Cleveland too, because Aqua bypassed Cleveland through the rail trail.
Okay.
So we have like a 99 foot right of way there. So there's plenty of room for a lot of infrastructure on the trail. And it wasn't even unusable for biking and, horses and stuff while they were doing the work. I had a couple other things too. Marie, this doesn't foreclose anything to happen in Minetto. This is, in fact, I think it's...
Or even in Oswego. Oswego's been under a consent
Right.
decree
In
all around
other
us.
words, so what we're talking about here is a great opportunity, and we have 8 different municipalities in the county that are buying in. It's a really interesting opportunity. And if you look at the fourth whereas, it says This would involve the formation of an Oswego County Sewer District to support the operation and maintenance. Well, that means that we could use that same organization, that same development of a district to go north and to take things further. So this is just like, this is setting the groundwork. I just think it doesn't foreclose doing anything else, but literally, I mean, since 1996, while I was mayor in the village of Cleveland, we've started a district in Constantia and have been working to try to get sewer through. If it had not been for COVID, there would have been a plant down there already. But the timing was terrible. Prices went off the charts. This is going to be about $30 million less for Constantia to actually get. I don't think sewers would ever happen right now in Constantia. So it's not, I absolutely agree with the idea that we have to protect Lake Ontario, but we also have to protect the river and Oneida Lake as well, and that's what this gives us the opportunity to do.
I just don't want to be left 10 years in the dust on this end.
I get it.
Oh, I agree with you, and I don't think you will be. With the attention that is wastewater is getting now, that's like primo. And it is with your grant writers, it's with the state, it's with the federal.
And I'm sure the grant writers are working with Cornell. There's been many effluent discharge studies of how dangerous the effluent discharge in ditches are, and forever chemicals, all kinds of things entering freshwater bodies.
Exactly. And as I said, we have so many of them here in Oswego, we need to protect them. Okay, any other comment? Oh, Paul?
As in the town of Hastings, it took us, I think, 12 or 14 years to complete our water district, and we did it in thirds. And, the infrastructure of building water towers and whatnot for that. So with this starting here, that's a start that we're going to go through the rest of the county with.
Good.
I mean,
Get punky on it. It'll go in 3 years.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Cool. Okay, EP3, resolution authorizing the reclassification of one position in the planning department. What this is Tim has looked at the skill sets, realized what he's got coming into the department and everything, and he has decided that changing the title but not the salary and the position of Deputy Director of Community Planning and Tourism to become just Deputy Director of Tourism for Dan. So his title changes, but his salary doesn't. And that allows him to have a Deputy Director of Planning that we will be discussing in the next resolution. Questions?
I'll move it for.
Move it? Yes, sorry, thank you. Second. Questions?
I feel better if we had a deputy director of job placement.
Well,
I think that's a great conversation to have with Rachel as well. I mean, we have you, Rachel. I think I did last one, but Rachel, sorry, Rachel. But specifically to this situation, I do know with transportation and the other things that we've been talking about, the job creation piece is crucial. A lot of what we're doing with Austin right now is bringing in people to hire and give people more jobs. So this specifically is kind of the, well, do you mind if I just give a quick overview for the next three, if that's okay? So the next three resolutions are all part of the restructuring that we've been talking about. What we found really over the last, I would say almost 5 years, is that the need and the amount of money that we've been raising as a county for tourism and convention-related activities has grown substantially. In fact, over the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years, we've almost increased our bed tax revenue by 50%. It's been an incredible job done by the folks who are in our tourism office, by the leadership of those offices for years. And what we're really seeing is people are coming to Oswego, and I think you've all seen between the Viewpoint program, what we did with the eclipse coverage, some of the stuff going on with the Marine Sanctuary, and hopefully the federal park status. There's a lot more going on in Oswego County. We've been working more actively with our historical societies and our local cultural nonprofits. We are really trying to make sure that people see the high quality of life that we have been able to offer and that we've really offered for years, but maybe haven't been able to publicize. So over the year and a half that I've been in this position, I've really been kind of just reevaluating the different departments we have, the different roles that they serve. Dan's unfortunately not able to be here today, but really over the last, I would say almost 12 months, maybe longer, Dan has been focusing exclusively on tourism. When Jan used to run that office, She did an amazing job, but when she retired, we didn't replace her. And really, all this is doing is aligning his job title with what he really has been doing for the last year. He is exclusively working on tourism and doing a great job. And I think all of our budget lines show that. The product we've been putting out shows that. I think Oswego County is doing an amazing job telling people really how great it is to live, work, and play here. So that piece is the first resolution, is really just aligning his title with what he really is doing. But along with those lines, and I'll just quickly jump into the other two, just kind of one story here. Along with that, what we're finding more than ever is because technically his title is Deputy Director of all the different departments, but he's only been working on the one, it's definitely leaving a bit of a stretch on the rest of it. And I would say more now than ever, we need to invest in planning, in the development of our community. As you know, Mr. Turner is retiring at the end of the month. Strategic initiatives and broadband project and all the ARPA closeouts, that's all going to be coming under my office as well. We have a $750,000 septic system and sewer connection line grant that's coming through that we're going to be administering. It's going to be a great program. Our community is absolutely going to love this program, but it's intensive. It's a CDBG program. Those are a pain in the butt. I mean, the reality is they are. In addition to that, we have this manufactured home grant that we're working on. That's going to allow us to work with different communities on what do you need to make these things livable, to make them safe so that they can expand safely and provide quality housing to the folks who need to live there. Unfortunately, we have not done a great job of that in this county. We just haven't. A lot of it has to do with the local municipalities and their oversight, because again, it's local control. But the big piece that we're working on is a 15-month project to do an updated comprehensive plan update for the entire county. That's going to require my staff and myself to be on site. There's going to be a lot of visits to the town planning boards, 22 towns, 9 villages, 2 cities. And we want to be in every one of their living rooms, making sure they're on board. The county can't do a comprehensive plan and then dump it on the towns. It's not going to work. They're not going to be part of it. It's going to be a waste of time. So we need to make sure that we're investing time with those communities, with their planning boards, with their zoning boards. And I think our staff has really done a great job. We've increased the number of 239 reviews, meaning people are doing projects and they're making sure we're on board or at least have our insight in it. We almost doubled the number of 239 requests over the last 3 years. So people are doing work and that's great, but we are also communicating more than we ever have before. So with all that said, I really feel that it's necessary to have a position that is a deputy of those office. That person will really help me. I'm averaging in January, February alone, over 3 hours a day of meetings. And I don't think they're wasted meetings. There's just that much going on. It's exciting, it's encouraging, but it's a heavy lift. And so I'm asking specifically for the deputy position to help me find somebody who can really help in those. I want somebody who can go to these towns and villages, who can stand up and can say to the communities, partner with us. You know, we are going to be here to help you get things done. And then specifically the second position is the infrastructure one. And I think we've been talking about here how this county has been, unfortunately, a little bit behind when it comes to infrastructure. We see what's going on around us, and we're going to do our best to catch up. Well, that requires somebody to do it, a person who is an expert in the field and understands what we need to do here. We got a grant, $60,000 grant from New York State Department of State about 5 years ago. So we are tried. The county put that grant application in. Unfortunately, when we put that program out to bid, infrastructure analysis and authority conversation, we put it out to bid twice with no respondents. Nobody wanted to do it for us. We then attempted to contract directly with a local firm who ultimately wasn't able to provide the service. So we really tried to find a way to do this outside of that. In the end, none of those things worked, and we still need to do this. And so my plan is to create this position, bring in, and I'll tell you right now, I'm hoping to bring in Mark Lombardo for the position. He has been our local expert. He is the one who has done all of the work that we got to the point we are. The Socris idea, that was his idea, and he has been putting in the time to understand what assets we have in our county. What we need to do now is be boots on the ground every day. We need someone 35 hours a week plus going in there, walking through the catacombs of the sewers or the sewer plants in our county, understanding what they have, what assets are there, what the life cycle is on those things, and how to put together a picture that says, how do we as a county, how do we maximize Monetto, right? How do we put together this connection line through the southern portion of our county? So again, I feel very strongly that those positions are necessary, and then this what do they call it here, the reclassification, thank you, is necessary to go along with that. So if there's any questions specifically, we can wait till it gets to those resolutions, but that's my big picture plan.
Okay, at this point, we're just discussing EP3 for the position, the reclassification of the position for Dan Instead of being a deputy director of the entire department, he's deputy director strictly of tourism. Comments?
Why is he just gonna focus on this department? I mean, you don't feel he can take on more?
Well, like I said, with us not replacing Jan's position, when she retired, she ran the department. He has run the department. That's all he does. That is his full-time job. Technically, he was in a position that oversaw everything, but in reality, it's a full-time job.
He's not able to be here today at the meeting.
No, he's talking this morning, but he's done an amazing job. Our numbers show it out, but he's done an amazing job because he is focused exclusively on.
What do our numbers show?
Our bed tax revenue is up almost 20%.
How much in dollars and cents did we take in bed tax?
We took in, you still to read, $794,664 last year.
What did we do the year before that?
769. And then I think his first year was 2021, and that was at 603 that year. So we've had almost $150,000 increase since 2021.
So do we track these people down? I had suggested buying like a $20 local law license if you have an Airbnb or anything like that.
So Airbnb, that's a great point. I
And
didn't
you
even bring it
have
up.
a database and you report to the fire department, there's the list.
So if I could,
But yes, this
it's
is.
a little bit of a spoiler alert because
I know.
Mel was going to talk about it.
Yeah,
But
that's good.
so starting this year, we hope that the local, our local electeds will carry language that will actually give us the authority to charge bed tax on Airbnb short-term rentals. We currently cannot. Our local law doesn't allow it. All the other
Why?
communities do.
Where's Rich? Why doesn't it allow it?
Well,
It's in the
20-something years
it has
ago.
a state budget. It's a state law, and they haven't been willing to carry it in the past. We've been trying to get it done since 2017.
I was saying, when Roy was the chair of this committee, I know you brought it up. So, but we've had meetings with Barclay's office, with our state senators. The expectation is they will be carrying that language to change the state law to allow us to charge bed tax on Airbnbs and short-term rentals.
Just from a safety standpoint, so you know who's in that dwelling and that it is not.
And as part of that, we will be required. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. As part of that, we will be required to keep a roster. The county will have a list of all the Airbnbs and short-term rentals in the county. They also, for the first time ever this year, are going to be allowed to charge sales tax. I bet you didn't know this. Airbnbs do not charge sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't make anything off it currently. Starting this year, we will, which will allow us to then, again, have an internal list that we will keep and oversee. And
They're
then
like community banks. They get to sidestep a lot of rules and regs.
Well, the daylight is shining on them now, and they will be taken to task.
Well, that was the other point I wanted to make, is that we do expect somewhere between $200,000 to $250,000 of added income from that short-term rental Airbnb. That's what we hired a company to do a online, search, and they provided us what they expect. So they thought that was a conservative answer. So we shall see.
Roy?
Phil, I'm glad you're back. So there's a NISAC resolution that NISAC passed in regards to this having a database of all of the Airbnbs.
Yes.
So it'd be a statewide law if they did it.
Right, well,
So we could actually use that ourselves to encourage that to happen.
If I could,
The governor signed it, but made a change so that registry is being pushed back on the county.
Yes.
So that resolution, if I remember right, we would have to change it if we want to say something different. So that's why we didn't bring it forward today. We're just trying to get a handle on exactly what the change means for us. I don't know if Tim's heard more.
Yeah, actually, Rich was mentioning a little bit when we first started, earlier before the meeting, that we're going to probably do it for next month, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a chance that this is going to be implemented.
The roster,
Yeah.
it will
Yeah.
happen. It
Yeah.
will 100% happen. We have to, in order for us to collect any bed tax, and that doesn't just mean short-term rental, it means any. The 790,000, in order to keep being able to collect that, we have to have an internal list. So we're going to be required to do it regardless.
Yep.
But it's supposed to be done by the New York State Department of State. And the governor's, when she signed it, she revised a number of things, including that the state will not be responsible for keeping it, the local level will.
Mandate.
Well, maybe we need a Doge for New York State.
There you go.
Let's see about government efficiency, slice right through it. I kind of support that.
Wouldn't that
Yeah.
be a miracle?
I agree.
Could do a lot more with a lot less.
Marie, I nominate you to
Yes.
become that. I think
Yes.
you'd be good.
I think I would, Roy.
I'm serious. I'm absolutely serious. It's a compliment.
I'll take it as one.
Okay, any other comments or suggestions or thoughts on EP3? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, let's go right on to EP4. Resolution creating a position in the Planning and Community Development Office as Deputy Director of Community Development and Planning. Motion.
Move it.
Second? Okay. I think Tim has already given us a whole explanation of why and all the things that is going to be coming in front of his department. And therefore, he needs another person, and that's why he's developing this position. Any comments or thoughts? Marie?
How much money do you project it will bring in for us to have another person?
Well, that's a fair question. I would say this one will be a little tricky to give you dollars and cents. The tourism position,
Ballpark
absolutely.
it.
Well, it depends. It's going to talk about lost revenue from not being able to get, the infrastructure projects done. If we were to mess up one of our $750,000 grants, you could potentially cost out, hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's a lot of oversight with these grants, especially the federal grants, especially in the world we live in today. And so having staff that are able to oversee it and have the time to do it correctly is going to be crucial. As far as checks, like how much money is actually going to come in, this position will support both tourism and transportation. So there are some additional services that do bring in money, but I would see this one as, I can't give you it's going to bring in $315. I can't tell you the number. It's necessary to be able to provide the services that our Community Planning Development Office can offer.
Sometimes it's an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure here.
This is one I think is necessary.
Okay, but let's just say, what if a lot of federal dollars dry up? And it looks like there's a decent shot at that.
It's a great point. So what I will tell you is that this is, none of my office really is federal driven as far as income goes. If we didn't get a single dollar, it wouldn't affect our staffing. Typically what we do with all those grants is provide services. We don't even usually use the administrative fees that they give us to pay the salaries. We usually turn that back into providing more services. So, for example, the substantial grants outside of those CDBG grants, most don't even provide admin fees, meaning money for you to do the work. So our staff is not funded through the grants, at least not in the planning and community development offices. It's all local money. So I guess that's a
You
blessing
feel
and a
right
curse.
now, Tim, end over end, we're gonna take in a lot more money than we spend on another employee with a huge set of benefits, all wrapped into one. Do you feel we're gonna far exceed that number?
I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, I believe it's necessary to be able to even continue, not just providing the current services, but the one we've committed to do for the upcoming year and the years following. This, let me just say, this broadband project, it's a $30 million project. It is a substantial undertaking. We have Kyle in Strategic Initiatives. It's essentially going to be his full-time job, but there is still a lot of work.
But I thought strategic initiatives ended after 3 years.
So yeah, once this program goes through, but that's still the end of 26, so that's still 19 months from now. That is going to require a substantial amount of oversight from our office. So like I said, it's not dollar for dollar back, but it's being able to make sure that we do a good job on what we have.
But it will go away. We were assured it would go away.
No, that's correct. As of the end of 2026.
Seems like longer than 3 years.
Well, 2026 is the federal requirement of when you mandate that you do these closeouts by the end of 2026.
But as that goes out, Marie, you have to remember, a lot of new things have come in, just like the broadband. There's a lot of other big projects.
Broadband was coming for a while.
Right, but
We were able to throw a lot of money at it through ARPA.
Oh yeah, we
correct?
put $4 million into it. That's right.
But it
It's
isn't
not
just
a
the
lot of
money.
money.
It's making sure though that all the T's are crossed, the I's are
We
dotted.
could have put a hell of a lot more than $4 million in it.
That's fair. We would have, if we did, we would have gone up on a lot of the support we did in other areas. So we only had 26 million,
22.
22 million. So I mean, you figure that's still, yeah. So I mean, we did put quite a bit of money into it.
There's a lot of things going into planning that it's just like if you've got so many things on the plate, if you aren't able to handle them, they're going to fall off and you're going to lose out on services for our county. Frank?
I'm listening to all this. I'm sorry, but coming from the private sector, when you're a manager at Carrier and they give you 3 more departments to run, okay? You don't say, well, you're gonna, no, your production is still supposed to increase. And you either take it or you don't take it. And I'm sorry, this is the same thing in the private sector. Private sector is there to make money. Okay? And that's what you're looking at, okay? I just can't, because every time in government, okay, not just ours, okay, but in all government, well, we're gonna add, okay, so we got to add a person. No, it's still gonna be your department, and you're still gonna be taking care of it. And we're not gonna lose anything, and we're not gonna not cross all the, the T's and not dot all the I's, because if you do, then I'll get somebody that will do it, okay? And I'm not saying that anybody's doing a bad job. I'm not saying anybody should get, but I'm just saying that I will not support this on the floor.
Okay.
Not because I don't think that Tim's department is good department. I from the beginning, I said, the strategic planning should have been, should have stayed right under, planning and tourism. Should never have been broken off, but you guys, did that, fine. All right, and that's, it's just, there's so much that you have to do. And if you want to carry the ball, you're going to get hit, and you're going to have to carry the ball a long ways. And so I'm just saying that that's the same thing that I feel right now. We ask hourlies to go above and beyond, and so we're going to start asking management. You're going to have to start going above and beyond now. Okay? Thank you very much. That's my thing, and that's, I will not be supporting it on the floor. I don't get a vote here today, but I do not support it on the floor.
Where's Carrier today?
Carrier, well,
Roy.
I'm good. Oh, UTC, okay? They're coming back, okay? They went to Mexico.
Mhm.
Okay, Mexico's coming back with all the terrorists.
Roy.
Roy? No. All right, any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. EP5, resolution creating a position in the Planning and Community Development Office Special District Project Administrator. Motion to discuss? Move it. Second? Okay. Comments? I think Tim went through why we need this, why we need a person to oversee this. We tried to get it from the outside, we can't. So we're best hired hands are the hands at the end of your arms, guys. We have somebody here working. Any other comments about this?
If I can just put one last thing on there. So we do have a $60,000 grant that will essentially cover this salary, for a portion, well, for this year anyway. I am working with the state to get that. It's not been taken away. It's old, but they have indicated that once we pass this, I can propose to them to see if we can get that covered under that grant. So that is something I'm working on. I'm hoping to be able to do. I don't want to promise it because it's in the state's hands ultimately, but they have indicated interest in having that conversation. So I'll report back if we do, just to let people know.
Great.
If we don't, by the way, also if we don't, that money will, we won't get. We can't spend it on something else. It's got to be for infrastructure related.
Okay.
Well, we're getting so many additional helpers. This position is for the collection of data on the mobile home parks. Is this the one?
Well, no. So this is the one specifically for the infrastructure. This is the one that's going to help us inventory what is out there in our county. Put
This
together.
is for this Mr. Soloway.
No, it's Bombardo, Mr. Bombardo.
Mr. Bombardo. All right, now, is he an engineer? Are his qualifications in here anywhere?
So if I can, to be clear, right now, until there's a position, there's not an application, there's not a resume. So that would be something we will be getting. I mean, ultimately, whether this individual, who I think would do an amazing job, is the person we hire as a county, that is the next step. But as of right now, the needs are there regardless.
Well, what is his background?
I don't, are we supposed to discuss?
Well, we don't even know if he's going to be it yet.
I mean, is he?
Well, I was kind of told he was going to be.
Well, I think the point of it is that part of the need for it is that we have somebody who can do it. And I think that the thought would be otherwise, we could be years out. This is a urgent matter to get this moving. And so, oh, sorry, go ahead.
His name is not attached to the resolution.
No, and it really shouldn't be. I was just more for the purposes of the conversation you had asked. There is a person who is in mind, but the position's created as a position. There's no requirement to be hired for any specific person.
This is creating the position.
Well, okay, second question. Is this going to further expand mobile home parks in Oswego County?
Well, no, so this project, the mobile home project is one that's being handled in my planning office by my community development director, or deputy, what's the?
But I did hear you say the word expand.
It's going to expand, hopefully it's going to expand the quality of service that's currently there. So right now what we're finding is throughout our county, we have a lot of mobile home parks that do not have, I don't want to say drinkable water, but I don't know that I want to drink it. There are current issues. It's going to be addressing that. I didn't want to come across that we're going to be putting a bunch of.
Yeah, not so much expansion, but better quality of life for those that are living there.
That's what the grant is for. So definitely not new creation.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
This position that we're doing is basically infrastructure for things just as Tim mentioned, finding out about Minetto's plan. How much can it take? What has it taken? What needs
I
to be
have the
done?
specs right with me.
Also,
Yeah.
another part of it, and this is an important thing too, is that this position will also look into the long-term planning for infrastructure in this county. One of the things that we had talked about and that grant is actually towards is whether or not the county needs an authority to do this. Should the county be the one taking on, should the municipal buildings, or taking on municipal buildings? We found that a lot of our towns and villages, and even a couple of cities, are not necessarily interested in staying in the water business. And if not, how do they get out of it? Well, an authority like up in North Country Dank, what we see with Aqua, could make a lot of sense. And so part of the recommendation out of this will also be how do we long-term do this?
So remember, this is just getting a position. That's what this is what it's all about.
Will this position pay benefits and retirement and all that?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be budgeted in, yes.
Yeah, to be a regular employee of the county.
How much are they thinking to pay this?
Position, I think, would be right around 72 or
It's in
73.
there.
Yeah, it's in the resolution.
It's 72.6.
84.
72.684.
Any other discussion? Hearing none? Oh, I'm sorry, Bill.
We're finding some,
Discrepancies?
yes. We're on the special districts project administrator, right?
Yes.
The budget modification moves money into salaries and wages, but the object number is wrong. It says 5455, should be 5110. And is there a reason why you wanted to assign a project name to it? Just in,
I don't think so. Nope.
So that'll just be, it'll appear as under that title of special district project administrator.
Unless there's reason to, I would say no.
No, because their salary line already is an individual line within the
Thank you.
So I'd ask that the committee amend this, the object line from 5455 to 5110 and take out the project name.
Any questions about what we're suggesting to do as an amendment? Hearing none? Do I have a motion to accept the amendment?
Make a motion.
Second? Okay, now I'd like to would someone like to make a motion to accept the, as amended though? What we have
We
to do?
didn't vote on the amendment, did we?
No, I had to do the first amendment. Yes, I did the amendment. Said anybody in favor of the amendment? And they said yes.
Okay, anybody knows?
Nobody was opposed.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll vote on the amendment, on the resolution as amended. All those in favor? Opposed? One. Okay, now, does everybody have a copy of the walk-on EP6?
I didn't have time to read it. You don't tell us what it is.
Well, actually, it just handed to me, and I think it's more budgetary. It is the resolution authorizing budgetary modification, the Department of Workforce Development, separation of project salaries. Motion to discuss?
Move it.
Second?
Okay, so in her budget, all of her salaries fall under the 6,300 budget line. She has two others that are grant specific. Those grants require that she show those expenses within those budget lines. So we're going to move funds from the 5,100 salary line to the other two grant lines. It changes nothing. We're taking it out of that salary line in 6,300 and moving it to the other two lines, 14 and 6.
So it's strictly an audit type of
We
movement.
will move the costs of those salaries each pay week behind the scenes. Correct.
I would move it each pay. Why wouldn't it just be in the budget?
Because that's not where their salaries sit. and it's not full salary. If you look at one of them, it's only $25,000. It's a portion of one person's salary. And then the other one, it's the same thing. It's a portion of several people's salaries. So the amount, they're actually behind the scenes doing spreadsheets that show how much time each employee worked on each project. So then they go in and they figure out how much has to move to those two other lines, because that's how much time that employee spent on that project.
So each pay, it will be different.
It will.
So,
You have to, the grants are requiring us to account for how much time each employee spends on that particular grant. And the only way to do that is through this type of budget line, and then, as Veronica said, reconcile it after every pay period.
it's a lot more transparency. It's exactly how much work they did on that.
It's very similar to what we do in the highway department with the CHIPS money, because we have to show when they're actually working.
When they're actually working on it. Kind of like when we hire a lawyer, right? They have to show us how many hours they work on it. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Passed. Okay, resolutions are done. Let's go right into our departments. Operation Oswego County updates.
Sure, I do have several for today. First I wanted to let you know is that for the industrial park expansion down in the town of Oswego, we just submitted 2 weeks ago our Fast New York application for $7.2 million for additional costs associated with the build out of the industrial park. So Fast New York is a state program through Empire State Development specifically for creating shovel-ready sites. The funding that we had previously had received through EDA can only be used for public infrastructure, and their definition of public infrastructure is water and sewer that is owned by a municipality. There's also electrical and gas infrastructure that is owned by National Grid, so they do not count that as public infrastructure. So the costs associated with putting in a new electrical substation, new electrical infrastructure, gas infrastructure, telecom, some cut and fill and soft costs are 7.2 million, and so that application was just submitted. So we've already had some very good conversations, positive conversations with our representatives at Empire State Development, so we're pretty confident about that. But it'll probably be a few more months until we see what's going on with that. We are still moving forward with final design and other activities with the intention that construction will be starting later this year. Other things going on right now. So back earlier in February, I went to the New York State Economic Development Council's annual conference in Albany. At that, there were many sessions on things like site development, things like power being an extreme critical sort of, I wouldn't say an obstacle, but one of the challenging things right now for site development, because it takes so long to bring new electric, both from a cost as well as supply chain and regulatory matters. So we are Oswego County is in a unique position because of the amount of electrical assets that we have here with 3 nuclear plants, with 1,000 megawatt cogen facility, with energy, with all these different things. We have the power in our backyard. So instead of trying to bringing power lines all over the place to where projects want to go, trying to figure out ways to develop shovel-ready sites where the power is. So that's something right now that we are looking at ways that we can bring projects to where power is as a way to. It's not something that many places in New York State can do, because they're utilizing our power across New York State, whereas instead of say, hey, let's figure out how to do this. So that was one of the things that kind of came out of that. I will be attending Site Selectors Guild next week. Site Selectors Guild is an event where the world's top site selectors, which are really corporate site selector professionals, real estate professionals, meet to talk about sort of best practices in site selection, as well as meeting with economic development officials from around the country who are letting them know about the best sites in their backyard. So this is a great opportunity for us to meet with site selection consultants from companies like Deloitte, from all of these really big power players in the U.S. that are looking for sites for projects in particular, especially at a time where you're going to see a lot of, I would say, over the next 24 to 48 months, decision-making with foreign direct investment, where entities right now, and Legislator Castiglione, you talked about it before, about with tariffs, you're probably going to see some companies, especially from Canada, Mexico, and potentially EU, look to invest more in developing facilities in the United States. So working on what we can to make sure that Oswego County sites are at the top of the list for that when those decisions are being made. So that's going to be happening next week with Site Selectors Guild. Other things happening right now. So Operation Oswego County has started some strategic planning exercises. We've actually, with the assistance of the Shinman Foundation, we've hired a consultant from Clear Blue Associates who is already working with us on this, but we are having a board retreat on March 17th at Talwater Lodge to really kind of do the culmination of this sort of first phase of strategic planning. From that, we will be starting a second phase where we will be having very in-depth conversations with our major critical stakeholders. We have actually stakeholders from the county already involved at this point, but we'll be also taking the show on the road related to some of the critical needs in the county and ways that we can help to fill some of the roles, either in collaborative or in direct ways to do that. So it's a really exciting stuff going on right now. Also, as part of this, I think I mentioned before, but the name Operation Oswego County may become a new name at some point in the future. We're looking at later this year that more accurately reflects what we do as an organization. So to be able to tell that story internally within the county, but also externally when we're meeting with companies from all over the world. And Operation Oswego County doesn't necessarily mean anything to them. So I think that that's something else that's happening as part of the strategic planning process. Some exciting things that are going on. So as the snow is melting and we're making it closer and closer to spring, I think yesterday was the first day that the sunset happened after 6 o'clock since the fall. So I think we're kind of getting out of this now. There are 3 projects in particular that are going to have grand openings in March. Old City Hall Brewing in the city of Oswego here, Connects Care's expansion here in the city of Oswego, and then NET and Dye in the city of Fulton. These are all projects that are winding down, and by March 31st, there's going to be openings. It doesn't mean that they're going to have a ribbon cutting necessarily in the month of March, but that will be happening in the near future. So, I mean, those 3 projects alone are equivalent of about $36 million in capital investment in Oswego County, and they're all sort of coming online here at the same time. Also, other things that are happening, this is weather contingent, is that we are working on a groundbreaking announcement and ceremony for Dow Drop in the Industrial Park down in Screwful, as well as FabSite Industries that are both going to be starting the construction projects here. Looking at it early April, but really it depends on when the snow melts on the ground for that. So we're crossing our fingers that we get a good melt here, but both of those projects are slated to start their building process here in the next month or so. So exciting things happening.
Questions, comments for Russell? Frank?
We're still looking good at the Nestle site.
Yeah, so
because I know you're waiting on grants and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we're waiting. I mean, we've been in weekly conversation with New York State related to Restore New York funding to see what's going to happen with that. I know there's several projects in Oswego County that put in applications for sort of the round 2 in 2024 of that. The manufacturing incubator facility is one of those projects that's looking for support through that program. We are also looking at new market tax credits as a program that can help fill the gap on that project. So primarily, we've talked about this before. The gap on that project is now demolition of Building 30. That added about $2.5 million to that project cost that wasn't originally anticipated as part of that project. So we're right now trying to fill that hole. The other project, which was the housing project, which is on the Nestle site, they are waiting for more further information from New York State related to financing on that project. So once that goes forward, their plan is to go to the city of Fulton for site plan approval. But, you know, it's obviously the financing could change things related to the size of the project. Right now, it's about I think it's about a 45 unit or 46 unit housing project. Originally it was a 60 plus, so it's shrunk a bit, Frank, and it's 3 stories now versus 4 before. So
Anything more than one is too many.
understood. So, but anyway, it's yeah. So things are moving forward there, and then, you know, obviously there's, you know, still, you know, 15 acres of developable prime property at the Nestle site that we're very positive that there's going to be something really good happening for the city of Fulton there. So
We had both at the planning board meeting, you know.
Yep.
Which wasn't.
The public hearing there for that.
Yeah, which wasn't acceptable, you know.
I think that, you know, for 2 reasons. I think that the city of Fulton elected officials have a vision for that site, and that project didn't fit the vision. And 2, I think there was some concern that while the developers that were looking to do it have done projects in the past, they haven't done one like that. And so there was some concern that in their ability to do it. So I will say that, you know, I think that the city of Fulton, they have a vision of where they want to go, and they're not willing to accept anything less than that. So
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Any other questions for us? Okay, hearing none. Well, workforce development, Rachel was unable to make it today, but as you know, she still put through the resolution, and we're all set with that. Next, promotion, tourism, and department. Yeah, we go, Tim.
Sure. So again, similar, these winters are always a little bit, we do a lot of promotion for winter activities, but depending on how heavy the winter is, which this year has been pretty heavy, it's not a lot of stuff was canceled last month, right? But we still had a pretty good outreach and new followers on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. But a couple things I want to touch on is we had great feedback on the Dennis Quaid program. It really, I hope everybody got a chance to view it. I think it really put our county in a beautiful light. We looked professionally. We looked great. It did a wonderful job, and that has started airing throughout the country. So hopefully, we're going to start to hear back from people who said, "Oh, I saw your show on PBS," and we'll start to see more feedback. We have asked for some numbers, and we expect to see some of that. But the problem is that a lot of each of the PBS stations around the country are kind of run locally, and they don't necessarily, they can run them as often as they want to. If people love the program, they'll run it more often. And so we're hoping to find out just if we can get some stats on how often it's run. But so that turned out really, really wonderful. I want to remind people that in our tourism office, it's not just tourism, but it's also public information. And over the last month, we had a lot of public information work. And I want to really highlight my staff, both Kelly and Savannah, did an amazing job of being available. We had the building closed, and Savannah actually went and spent a bunch of time out at the 911 office and really helped a lot with the public information out there too. So I just want to highlight them. They've really done a great job. Sometimes we forget about that portion of it. That's crucial. And other than that, we had an amazing, one really, really good post on Facebook referring to Groundhog's Day. If you get a chance to see it, check it out. It's pretty funny with our fish. So any questions about tourism? Anything else? Obviously, we had a great meeting about the National Marine Museum. We're really hoping to be able to see more movement on that. I don't know, Phil, if you got any updates for that or anything?
NOAA conducted a meeting of the local governments last Friday, just to give us an update as to what they're planning for the summer, what they know about the federal budget process. As I reported last month, they still say the money is in place to do what they were planning on doing, that it's already allocated, and that is beginning to buoy shipwrecks this summer for diver and recreational access to them. The economic impact study is underway, the DLR group, and they are the largest research vessel in the Great Lakes is going to be here in Oswego in May to do imaging and documentation of wrecks within the sanctuary, and they are going to hold open houses and public access so that we can all go on it and see what they do. And they're developing uplinks to schools throughout the 4 counties so that they can do programming from that research vessel directly into the schools. So they are still planning on doing all that. In terms of the budget, the Marine Sanctuary Office lost 10% of its workforce, and they've been told to expect further requests for workforce reductions. The budget that came out of the House of Representatives cut their budget in half. The budget in the Senate is level funding, so we'll see where that goes from here. That's it in a nutshell.
Great. Phil, will anybody operate a dive shop? Will people?
Well, that's part of what we hope we begin to see happen as the programming in the sanctuary ramps up, as more vessels are buoyed for recreational access. That creates the infrastructure that would attract business here to open up, because then they can, instead of running up to the St. Lawrence, where most of them go now, they can go right here in central New York.
Any other comments? Okay. Jim, planning.
Okay, so a lot of the last month has been focusing on wetlands and land use. We had a lot of conversations. Again, a lot of 239 reviews have come through the county office. We've had good opportunities to talk to our local planning boards about what they want their communities to look like. We've had interactions with, I think, 4 communities that are currently updating their comprehensive plans using our regional planning partnership. So we've been able to work with them directly to help kind of craft that. My planning staff has been, I think, instrumental in helping them update their zoning to be prepared for what's coming or what potentially could come. We've been working with Joe Chevroletti at the Soil and Water. The DEC has indicated they're working directly with him and his office on a pilot program that could give us the ability to do wetland delineations. I don't want to say in-house, because Soil and Water is not necessarily in-house, but it could be a huge advantage for us for projects down the road to be able to utilize Soil and Water as opposed to go out, get some consultant to do it, pay through the nose to do it. The timeline could take forever. And don't forget, after they finally finish those wetland delineations on anything over 13 acres, they have to wait 3 to 4 months from the state to review it before they can even take the next step. So the wetland thing, and we've talked about it quite a bit, but I don't want to under-discuss that. That's an important piece for any development in this county. So we are actively working on that.
And one of the reasons that DEC went to Joe is, once again, because Oswego County has more wetlands than any other place in New York State. So they figured that's where a good pilot would be, to have Soil and Water be trained to be able to do this, because DEC does not have enough people to do it, or they're not trained. So we'd have to be calling people in from all over every time you want to build anything.
Well, and their expectation is that statewide they're going to double the amount of acreage that is under wetland designation. That would be crippling to us if you think about it. So it is a huge concern, and it's not, doubling it statewide is not the same in every county, because the majority of the downstate doesn't have any wetlands. So if you double it, you're going to hit us heavier. So again, having Joe being actively working on that will be beneficial to us.
And doubling is from 1 million to 2 million acres in New York State.
About 1.2 to about 2.2.
Yeah.
So, but again, we had a meeting just last week with our real property office, our county clerks. We're really trying to stay on top of it. One of the things we're seeing in our 239s is a wetland trust company buying up a bunch of property in Oswego County to offset the wetlands that are being replaced in Onondaga County. And so there is some concern. We've talked about it. We have some conversations with our electeds as well to say, moving your wetlands from out of another county into ours, which could potentially have some issues with, the tax. So just something we've been on top of as much as we can.
And I received my second postcard from New York Wetlands advertising. Are you ready to sell? Call us. So I'm like, whoa, they're really reaching. Great.
I am a lover of nature, wetlands. Okay, I don't think without a true expert like, say, Dr. Hellquist at SUNY Oswego, someone who's an expert and pointed out so much to me about hydric soils, which even though it's not wet, it's anaerobically very different. Cattails are like sewage treatment plants. So naturally occurring wetlands are critical to scrubbing water before it enters the lake. And it's a very dynamic thing to have a wetland near a Great Lake. So I think bringing somebody like that, who is a lifetime PhD expert on soils and water, would be to our advantage. I'm sure as just a consultant, he would do it out of passion. But have you reviewed a wetland delineation ever? See what they do?
So we've had a few projects that required them that I was kind of intimately, out of the site trail, we had to look into doing one, and we've done a few others, but I mean, I'm definitely not an expert in it. No, I
Did you
will tell you,
read
Joe,
through the report though? I mean, they're unbelievable.
oh, as far as the new legislation goes, or
No,
which,
what's involved, what they find, what the dynamics of drainage, of water direction. It's a completely different world than anybody, average person can walk into.
and I'll tell you, Marie, we definitely have not, in any of the projects I've looked at reducing wetlands. I think the bigger concern that we have is the creation of new wetlands, and what does that do ultimately to the landscape of the county?
It might not even be to the advantage of wildlife. I don't know. You need an expert on board who can look at the soils that they're trying to convert. I don't know if you can create hydric soil and issues like that anaerobically create the right environment for it. That's why you need a scientist who's an expert in it and can maybe shoot it down.
Well, we have reached out to the health department. We talked to Vera and the folks there. There is some concern. You know, we're already one of the chief mosquito counties in the state. What would happen if you create new wetlands? What could that look like?
If your land was in balance, you wouldn't have the most mosquitoes. Okay. The perfect example is what happened in the national parks when they brought the wolf packs back. They took down more hooved animals. The turbid waters cleared. It totally started to heal itself because it was a natural balance. We are experts at screwing stuff up. Just look around.
I'm looking to getting more wolves.
Well, I mean, it literally cured it though, Tim. It was a huge win.
And I'll tell you, we have heavily invested in Joe and Soil and Water. They do an amazing job.
I know, I love all he does.
I mean,
listen to everything
we're
he
talking
does.
to him though. He's part of the conversation.
But I think you need a scientist that is an expert on water filtration in nature's own. And can you create hydric soils? Can you? I mean, I have like some very interesting questions. You might not be able to. I don't know.
Well, this has all been driven by DEC. This is totally driven by DEC
But
saying.
we should be armed with appropriate questions. And we should have science behind it. Without science, you got just guesswork.
I absolutely love science. I was a science teacher. That was my major. But once again, this is totally driven. DEC is saying, Micron, you cannot build on wetlands. You have to fill them. And if you're filling them, you have to make new ones. And they have gone out and they're making them closest as possible, which is Schuylkill, Palermo. That's where they're making them. And wetlands are good. I understand the purpose of it, but you also have to look at the element of what it is doing to the whole picture. All of those wetlands that are coming in are zero tax base. So Schuylkill alone is almost 1,000 acres, have now become zero tax base, beautiful agricultural land that could be something has gone off the record and will now be wetlands.
So get a scientist to back you up.
To back you up, all it is the landowner, he has the right to say, no, I'm going to sell it. I'm selling it. How can you tell somebody and they're paying $10,000 to $18,000 an acre. So somebody comes to a farmer and says, I'll pay you $18,000 for all your land. Farmer says, okay. We have not got the right to say no. So all this land is being sold and it's going to be turned into wetlands. Scientists or not, DEC says you have to have more wetlands and you're doing it. DEC is a junkyard dog and they get the power. And when they say you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
And it's not just 1 for 1, it's 3.5 for 1.
Yeah.
So for every acre they get
So
rid of,
why
it's 3.5
can't it
new get
be
created.
mandated to stay in the county that it's being removed in?
Micron went to realtors such as New York Wetlands, and said, go forth and buy. And so they're buying as much as they can, as close as they can, and DEC also wants it in the same watershed. So that is one of the parameters.
In the Onondaga water.
There is some in Onondaga, but they said the land is too expensive for them to buy there. So they're buying at Schuylkill and Oswego.
Is that in the watershed?
Yes.
Tim, you mentioned that it's 1 to 3.5.
Somewhere in that, between 3 and 4,
For
but
every
average
1
about
acre,
3.5.
you have to create 3.5.
Yeah, it is determined on each
So that's why,
project.
that's why they're buying up so much, even though Micron's only displacing
You got it.
2
Yeah.
to 300 acres.
Yes, so they're buying more, and my understanding is that they're buying way more than what Micron needs to bank it, because they're assuming there's going to be more industry going around Micron. Once again, in that area, they're gonna be needing to fill in wetlands, and now you go to New York Wetlands and say, oh, we've already got it for you.
And the Wetlands Trust is a 501c3, so it's tax exempt property once they own it.
But it's being done for a commercial purpose, so I think that
That's our.
there's a way to
Yeah,
challenge.
we're trying to challenge, but still, I mean, what it's doing is, it's really changing a lot of potential. All we heard is Micron is coming and it's gonna give us all of this ability to develop, and they're taking away a lot of our ability to develop.
Has Micron done anything yet?
They've purchased a lot of property. They're leasing space in downtown Syracuse. They're hiring people. They're spending tens of millions of dollars on environmental studies.
They bought a lot of land.
They bought a lot of land. They have a lot of property under contract as well with the Onondaga County IDA. This is probably, and I'm not directly involved on it, but it's probably the most complicated environmental review ever done in New York State because of the size of the project, because of some of the other things.
How many
associated.
acres is it off?
Almost 1,500. It's about 1,450 acres that is owned by the Onondaga County IDA now. That is for this project, and it's land that is, some of it is land that's within a mile of the Oneida River. So it is, and it's property that is, federal and state designated wetlands. Is 250 acres or so of it is that. So they've been told they need to recreate that wetland offsite to the same or higher standard, which is what they're doing. Is the most cost-effective way to do it is to recreate it on land that you can acquire cheap and turn into new constructed wetlands.
Roy?
So are the new regs in force now?
As of January 1, they are enforced.
As of January 1. So, and that's what's creating this desire for all this property.
I think that would have been there anyway. What this is really doing is taking land so DEC wetland was always treated the way it was treated. If it was a DEC designated regulated wetland, it had to have a buffer around it and other things. Army Corps of Engineer wetlands was different. It was to a lesser level. The way the state changed things is they're going to now look at, one, they're not going to just look at the current maps because the current maps are out of date. So anytime a project's being done, it has to be looked at to see if there's a wetland associated with it. But also it means that properties that before would have been held to an Army Corps standard will now be held to a New York State DEC standard. So property before that may have been 10 acres of Army Corps wetland that you couldn't develop may now, because of the buffer and everything, may equate out to a 16 or an 18 acre wetland when you put a buffer around it. So it's creating less usable acreage because of that. So and we haven't really seen it happen yet because it's so new that a project hasn't gone all the way through the new standards to see how it will be treated.
So and that's true for the natural and the manufactured wetlands, correct?
I assume so. Once something's been manufactured and it's owned by the Wetland Trust, it's a wetland forever. It can't be resold and then put back into purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, back to the NISAC resolutions, they have resolution urging the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to pause implementation and reverse the freshwater wetlands regulation. I think we should consider taking that up at our committee meeting next week, but full legislature.
And there's some
I think
local information, I'll ask planning to fill in on that. and I'll
Well, Phil sent it out to
draft.
everybody, so everybody can read a copy of it before. So it's like page 14 or something in the document.
And asking all the counties, anybody that can do their own as well, to put a little bit more meat behind it, is it's causing a bigger hardship than anything. But Marie, as far as has Micron done anything, they can't put shovel in the ground until November of this year because they had to relocate bats. So that's the last I heard. So November, supposedly, they can put a shovel in the ground because the bats have moved. They're not in their mating time between April and November. And so then they can start that.
Specifically endangered species, the Indiana bat in particular.
How do they relocate them?
They make more habitats, they'll bring
I
them.
had a little behind trailer, so
Moving into the new wetlands.
They
yeah.
remove their habitat while they're not mating, and then they will relocate to an area where they have, and it may require them putting bat boxes and some other things in other places. They've had to do this for eagles, so things before where that's held up projects for eagles. I remember when Walmart built in Granby, they had to do something similar. That it was eagle habitats. They had to recreate eagle habitats so that they could build on that property.
and if I can just give one last quick update. So we talked about the SOCRIS, we've talked about the importance of infrastructure. We have an ongoing project.
No, the SOCRIS is the Southern Oswego County Regional Interceptor Sewer Project, just so that you know, that's the acronym now for that.
We're getting t-shirts, tattoos, it's gonna be awesome.
Competing with us.
It's great. But there's also a project we're looking at in Volney right now that could potentially connect the city of Fulton sewer line to our Bristol Hill facility. Currently, people may not know this, Bristol Hill does not have sewer attachment. In fact, we truck our leachate every single day through residential neighborhoods to get it dealt with, right? So about 10, 12 years ago, the county actually invested in creating a sewer district, thank you. And so this project could go in line with what we've already created as a county. There's $1 million grant available through the state to support this. It sounds like if we put the application, we get awarded. I think they said there's $50 million, one per, and there's 49 communities eligible. So essentially you apply.
64.
Well, they had said a few of them were not eligible, but the point is the money's there. So we have a project. The project has to have a developer who signs on to create at least 10 new housing units. And so we have a developer in Volney in Volney who's willing to do that. They're looking at potentially adding up to 60 new construction, single-family, owner-occupied homes. Very exciting project. I'll come to you probably at the next meeting with potentially, we may have to do a resolution or something like that, because it would be a county grant, but the project would be in partner with a private sector developer. But it would give us a ton of benefit too, because if we could connect that line, being able to connect Bristol Hill could be, good, also give us benefits down the road. So I'll come to you a little more on that. If anybody's any questions, reach out. But I just want to highlight that there's other projects going on wastewater as well, not just that one focus.
Okay, any other questions? Moving right on to mobility management. Heather.
Good morning. I always have folders for you guys. Thanks, Tim. So, I do just want to give an update. Catholic Charities sent out an email a couple days ago. If you guys know anybody that needs help with snow removal, and they can't afford to remove the snow from their yard or from their roof, Catholic Charities got an emergency disaster grant to help people get the snow removed. So if there's issues with like the ice or the slow melt, they can help.
DMO has a list of people. Emergency management has a list of people.
Oh, we should
And the
connect
health
them.
department, yeah.
Yeah, we need to connect those.
I'll talk to you guys.
Just at public safety yesterday, and they were talking about that there was volunteer groups out there, but they didn't officially say Catholic Charity, so I think we need to get that out more, that if there is help, because there's a lot of people that have been contacting the county help, and it's kind of like, you have to start with your insurance company if you've got it, because we cannot go on, the county cannot go on private property.
Okay. I'll connect them so that they have those resources.
Yeah.
Heather, do you know if there's income?
There's not an income requirement. I don't know too much about it. I do know that you would ask that question.
Yeah.
But there's a phone number that they gave me to call to ask for their community service department. It's very, very limited funding that they have right now. I don't know the full details of exactly like ins and outs of what it can fully help out with. They're not, Catholic Charities hasn't like done a public notice. They're telling partners to let people know that if they have somebody to call them. But they know it's gonna go quick, so I don't think they're like
Wanting to get out there, because, there's so much need for it.
but I don't think there's any guidelines on it. Jefferson County, over the past couple of years, they contracted with Mobility Management, Volunteer Transportation Center, and they've been working on creating a public transit system. They recently approached me a couple weeks ago to start the conversation because they're about to go live with their transit system, but before they do that, they want to make sure they have a connection in our county. So we have a hub in Pulaski up at the Burn Dairy. Adirondack Trailways buses meet there, and then our APT buses meet there. And so I think that would be a good spot for us to talk about, to have the Jefferson County public transit system connect there as well. So that could be a hub for people to move from our county up to Jefferson County. It's going to open up a tremendous amount of access. So I don't know a lot about that. I'm going to have an initial meeting with them shortly and give you guys updates on that. We've made it to the final round. We worked with our grant writers to write an innovative mobility grant. We put in for $300,000 so that we can purchase a couple smaller vehicles. The state will give us an automatic waiver to use these vehicles but still collect operating monies. So I was on my call last month. And a bunch of people said they got their Dear John letters. We did not get one of those letters. We got follow-up questions. So there's only a few people in that group that were with me that got those follow-up questions. So we'll keep you guys updated, but it looks like we did make it to the next round with that grant. I want to thank you, and everyone should thank Veronica in this room. You've been so helpful with getting all of our finances in order and cleaned up. At the beginning of the year, I was also worried about federal funding, so I worked really diligently with Veronica and got all of our CARES funding reimbursed 100% up to date. So everything that we've spent out of our CARES funding that the state has been asking us to spend because it's COVID funding, we have gotten all of that money 100% reimbursed to us.
How much is that total?
Well, the most recent one was $834,000, but we did one before that, which was. So we've got a little bit left of that to spend, but we're going to be doing those reimbursements quarterly versus annually because it will help us keep our accounts cleaner. It will be a lot easier for me to submit it because I have less to submit in the request, and we'll also get our money back a lot quicker. We got our money back 2 weeks after we submitted it.
That's unheard of.
So it means we submitted everything correctly and it was clean. And how we did that was Eunice and Veronica. We were able to get every line item pulled out they were asking for, every invoice that they wanted. They had no corrections to give us. They saw the request, everything was there, they set payment. So thank you, Veronica, for that. Can I say anything about this? What can we say about that?
Just that the RFP is out and open and we're waiting.
Okay. Access is out to bid. We are waiting on RFP responses. Things are looking good.
Okay.
More
More to come on that.
I have a question. On the fair right here. I see that we have pickups at the Gardens, 104 and George Street, the Gardens, Price Chopper.
This is Central bus schedule. So,
Right, but we'll quick. What about Simeon DeWitt and?
I'll explain this so we know what
Okay.
this is. So when we go to facilities and we meet with people, one of the biggest things is that people have trouble reading the bus schedule. Seniors can't, first of all, see it because it's very small writing on the central bus schedules. And there's also a lot on there. It's very confusing. We know that they're revising their routes and they're going to make them a little simpler as we go. But right now, this is what we're working with. And so what we've done to help our senior population is they've told me, we really just want to know how to get to Price Chopper and how to get to Walmart. So all I've done was I've taken all the bus stop times for Price Chopper and Walmart and for their specific facility and made them just their own flyer with a map attached to it so that they don't get confused by having to read the whole bus schedule. And we do this for individual facilities that ask for it. I just want to show you guys an example of what we're doing. We have a bunch of these for individual facilities all over the county.
So maybe if every facility just had one sent to their homes.
Yeah, that actually, you bring up a really good point. So one thing we've been doing new this year, which I've been having Kristen do, is send out about 10 to 15 packets a week. We created a letter. It comes from our department. It says who we are and what we do. It has information included into it, and we've compiled a resource list of libraries, school districts, nonprofit organizations, and we send about 10 to 15 of these a week out. And people have been responding to us way more than they have ever in like email or any of those responses. And so now we're getting to send them their specific information, go to their facilities. It's been helping us a lot with outreach. And so that's one thing, Marie, that we're definitely learning is how can we get to the people more? There's 2 of us. So
How can we
that's
get
one
to
way.
Central to like slow down these completely empty buses out on County Route 7
Yeah,
lying,
yeah.
and nobody's on them ever?
So were you here when we talked about Central revising their route for Oswego? So Central is redoing their routes.
Couldn't they do it with half the size bus?
Yeah, so I gotta fill you in on this because it's such good information. So Oswego is the first route that they're gonna redo. They wanna launch it by September. So what they're doing is they are cutting the route in half in the downtown area, and instead of having one bus that goes from SUNY all the way up to Walmart, it's 45 minutes, and so you have seniors riding the bus for 45 minutes. It's gonna be split in half. They're gonna put a hub in the middle of Oswego, and then they're gonna have 2 buses that shuttle back and forth, so that it's only 15-minute intervals. It's called a bus rapid transit system. We're changing how the system runs in downtown. It's a little bit more of like an urbanized system, how that runs. And then they have 2 smaller routes which go on the outskirts. They're going to have an east and a west side for Oswego. So instead of having OSW 2D, OSW 2C, 2B, 2E, all these different names, it's just going to be east and west. And then the one in the middle is going to go rapid route so that people aren't on the bus as long. We have more service. And hopefully more people will ride the bus because
Or a
that's one
smaller
thing.
bus would be so much energy saved.
Yeah, so Central is rebranding. They are going to be investing in CNG buses. They've ordered 64 of them. They can't bring those buses to our county right now because they're
CNG.
natural gas buses.
Okay.
Their infrastructure that they have in our county for their bus garage doesn't have the exhaust to house their green energy vehicles right now. But hopefully in the future they will. But our buses, our smaller buses, are made for those outer skirt areas. Their big city buses are more for the downtown area. Their smaller buses are used for their transit system. So they use those for people with disabilities. Yes.
I thought in the last transportation meeting, you said that they have to use the large buses to be able to get the transportation funding that they get.
That's
They
us.
can't.
Yeah.
But
So we,
not Central. Central couldn't put up, use one of their call buses instead of the big buses that do these runs. Could they use a call bus instead of the great big buses?
that bus is an eligible bus for them. If they wish to use a small bus on their routes, the authority absolutely could use that bus and still get their operating assistance.
That's what Marie's looking at, and the same thing in Fulton. Fulton was saying, why don't you, instead of riding around with, like 5 people on the bus on a great big, 60 passenger bus, why don't you put a, mini bus in there driving around? That's what they'd asked for.
As a quick reminder, we do not have representation on the central board, so again, they operate outside of us. We have been waiting for 18 months for hopefully Heather to get appointed to the board, but they have not acted on it yet.
Central does have small buses. They run
I know they
run a program called MOVE. It's our access program in other counties, but it has a fair pricing to it. So they have invested in smaller vehicles outside of their paratransit vehicles, yes. Are those vehicles in our county? No.
So hopefully the governor will sign off and we'll be able to have Heather on the board and she'll be able to have a vote and be able to explain it to Centro.
Well, I think she'll have about 5 votes,
Oh, yeah.
pretty much. So this is amazing.
Isn't it?
This is
Yeah.
this is a huge improvement for very specific uses of the buses,
Yeah.
getting people to use them. So really good job.
What they used to look like was, I don't know how to even explain them.
Heather, I'm pretty sure I could have understood that whole thing even if I didn't hear you because you were doing science.
Yeah.
That was great. Italian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You can thank her for that one. We've been working a lot with Coach, Department of Social Services, and OCO with their homeless coalition. And so I figured, well, what can we do on the transportation side to like contribute towards them helping people? So we created these Code Blue cards. I gave them to all of our bus drivers. We gave a stack to EMO and also to DSS. So it has information on when Code Blue is activated. The city of Oswego got Code Blue funding for when it's 40 degrees and under, and the state has it for when it's 32 degrees and under. So a lot of times people ride our buses to get warm, and they ride them in the summer to get cool. And so if there's somebody riding the bus all day and they wait to get off at the last stop, and they have nowhere to go, then I want our bus drivers to have something to give these people so they have a resource to call. DSS has a contract with 211 to transport people to emergency shelters if it's below a certain temperature. So that's just one way you can get the word out to people.
And that's important, right? Because sometimes if they don't have a cheaper option, we'll end up paying $50 both ways to drive them with a taxi or something like that, because there is emergency transportation. So having something that makes a little more financial sense almost saves us money.
Yeah.
It is mandated.
Mandated.
Yes, it is. So OCO had our fare pricing schedules in their buses. They were really ugly, so we just redid them to match our brand.
Okay.
So that's that. I'm giving you guys this because the Veteran Pass Initiative is coming very quickly. So they've sent us the form. This is not released to the public yet, but this is what they will be using so veterans can get their free fare cards. Veterans will no longer have to pay for any central buses, including all of us. So if they're disabled and they need to use that service, this will also cover their fare on that. But the only thing they're waiting on is they've ordered a very specific machine that's going to go in our VA office that will print out these bus passes. That'll be a permanent card.
And I'm assuming that once it goes to the public, it'll go to all the VFWs?
Yes.
Yes.
We will be sending out notice and we'll get that info out. This is my last update, but I find this one to be very important. So we sit on a committee out in Syracuse called the Syracuse Metropolitan Transit Council. They are our current metropolitan organization that has been designated by the state. This group receives funding for the bipartisan infrastructure project. So everything you see on the I-81, this is the funding this is the group that passes all the TIP amendments to get those projects pushed through. So in a portion of our county, which is West Monroe, Hastings, Scruple, that area is in that zone. So we have access to those monies that group taps into. So we put in for a grant last year. We worked with the NORCOG group, West Monroe and Hastings, and put in for a study. The study is for Corridor 49. What happens is that once the study is complete, it is sent to the state, and the state decides if they would like to fund that project. So we are using their funding from another county to do a study in our county. And then we're going to take that beautiful study that they paid for, and we're going to send it to the state and see if the state wants to come in and do all the work for us and fix our road. So at my last meeting, I sent this over to Noel because there was a new project that got approved in Hannibal. So this project in Hannibal is called, it says the CNY RPDB, I'm not sure who they are, is currently working on a joint town and
Regional
village.
Planning and Development Board.
Is working on a joint town and village comprehensive plan in Hannibal. The SMTC staff assistance will focus on 2 transportation-related components for the plan to address pedestrian and bicycle safety. So roadway realignment, traffic calming opportunities in the village of Hannibal, and then they're not asking for public participation efforts from SMTC because that group is going to do the outreach. So that downtown area in Hannibal, where it's really congested, that's the area that they're looking at, and the study is going to analyze a complete restructure of that area to make the traffic flow more safely. And so that will be sent up also to the state because that's a state road. And so potentially they could fund it, come in and fix it, and Hannibal won't have to pay anything for it.
Nice.
That's all I got.
Okay, as always, very informative meeting. I appreciate your time and effort. Motion, Roy? Oh, wait a minute, you have a comment?
So are you part of that work, there's a workforce development survey, that went around?
There's a lot of surveys going around right now. I need to have a little more detail
Oh,
on
okay,
it.
there was one, I just saw it yesterday. I guess it's something we should take a look at our emails if we want to have input for our communities.
Yeah.
Is it workforce development in particular, or?
Yeah.
There's another one that's the New York State Blueprint. It's an economic development statewide one that's going out. There's just a bunch of them right now. It's survey season.
Yeah, well, Valdez
Yeah, I don't
went
know if
way
you
out
sent it to
beyond.
me or the workforce development board sent it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, Valdez comprehensive survey that went out was 16
Oh, yeah,
pages long.
the strategic planning one.
Yes. Okay, that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, we should take a look at that one.
Yeah.
If people will want to have a chance to input this committee
Yeah.
should have input.
You should. Okay.
One last thing I just wanted to state, and actually I had it, but you brought it up, is with the snow event, there's been over 60 buildings across Oswego County that I'm aware of right now that have collapsed, both between residential properties, commercial properties, public buildings. In particular in Williamstown with International Wire, which employs over 100 out there. Martin Enterprises that employs 10 to 15 out there. All had buildings collapse. We've been in touch with these companies already. As of last week, they were still waiting to get their insurance companies out there to better understand what they potentially could get. But it's impacted businesses, and at least with International Wire, they have other locations. They have their headquarters in Camden, so they've been able to sort of place people over there. But just it's important to keep this out there that it's significantly impacted Oswego County. To my knowledge, there has not been a natural disaster area declared for Oswego County, which could potentially make businesses and residents eligible for federal disaster relief. I don't know I know that people at the county have been in touch and trying to figure out how that could happen. I don't know if there's any way we can help push for that, but there's going to be a lot of businesses that are going to have a lot of, even if they, get reimbursed for the cost of rebuilding buildings, we're talking months or years from now that can happen, and, the lost business that happens from that.
Austin, I want to say in 2002, when we received 7 feet of snow in 3 days, I had a brand new 60 by 150 arena go down. But we found out there was spot zoning. Jim Eby represented me, did extensive research. Of course, we were on our own for this with our brand new building and was charged an additional $1,900 by the town for a rebuilding permit. But your insurance ends up subjugating to the structural engineers. If they're properly insured, they're going to get reimbursed. But what they've got to push for is an 85-pound snow load, because anything less than that in this area, and I think I have another gentleman that will agree with me, it's a losing situation. And there's no way the federal funds are going to help you. What you have to do is due diligence. And if you got a ton of snow, you got to remove it.
Yeah.
Okay? So I've been there, done that with a brand new building.
Yeah. Feel for you on that one. That's
Well,
tough.
I mean, our own Oswego County, we've got a lift. You got to start knocking it off the edges. It could kill somebody if it unloaded too fast. So farmers know that. Warehouse people know that. I have a building the size of a warehouse and have been through it with stamped engineering, everything okayed. But I got out of it a $1,900 rebuild. Here you go, we want it re-engineered. It's 2 years old, you approved everything. We did go to court, but it's ominous. I mean, and what we got out of it was an 85-pound snow load, and that's what it should be in Oswego County. Do you agree with me?
Oh, yeah. I built my building in '06, and it was a 40 by 100. I wanted a 50 by 100. I also wanted 85-pound snow load at the same time it was code. My opinion was I built it. I was 46 years old. At 66, I wasn't going to climb on the building. So what we had to do was we had to shrink the building, and we designed it so that if I wanted to put wings off the side, that we could do that. I never did it. I'm still thinking about it. But like I said, Marie, you can watch it. You can complain about it. or you could do something about it.
Yeah, due diligence is
And
critical.
my savior was there was Mennonites from Ellisburg that came down, and basically I had 6 of them there and 2 Amish. And 4 hours we had my buildings, except for one, cleaned. And it really wasn't that
We
costly.
used to clean the county buildings off too with a Zoom level.
And even the salt building in Bill Peckrell, the parish went down way before any of these.
It was like the first one that went down.
The reason that made me very excited was that I have a friend that's in these construction buildings, and he has a building. Matter of fact, it's the Central Square Trail Valley's pole barn. And what he noticed was, for the mishap, was that metal gussets that they put onto the trusses were actually starting to pull, and he had around a 62 pounds. It was code. But they stuck the salamanders underneath it, and they went up and they started shoveling a steel roof. I mean, you're talking about falling and breaking stuff. But it's either that, and a lot of these insurance companies will not. I remember Seward County Mutual back, I think it was 2002 or 2008, sent letters around that said if you don't take care of your roofs when they go in, you may not cover.
The best thing you can do too is I'm having every piece of property I own videoed with a drone, inside, outside, and assuring maintenance. They can look at the trusses, they can look at the electrical. I did everything in conduit, but stuff can happen. And you've got to, it'd be like if you didn't shovel a walk or take care of a roadway. It'd be impassable, it'd be a disaster. So you gotta care for your property. And we have, the best thing we can do right now is require 85-pound snow loads in Oswego County, because we're subject to incredibly freaky snow bands coming through here. And as I said, my daughter was young, and CNN was down at the crossroads, right down here on First Street, and she said, "Mom, that's not good when CNN's here." That's not good.
It tells a story right there.
7
itself.
feet in 3 days.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you very much, everybody. Yes, we had to go. Yeah, motion, second, we're good.